we need to bring Africa closer. I was talking to the President of Gabon just a short while ago, and we are agreed now that all the African leaders must find each other. We must trade amongst ourselves. We must open up these vast expanses of market opportunities for people in all parts of Africa.
Duma Boko just dropped a truth bomb that no African leader can ignore. He didn't ask for applause, he gave a warning. According to him, Africa is standing at the edge of something big, but it's running out of time to decide which way to fall. He didn't speak like a politician. He spoke like a man who saw the storm coming. So what did he say? And why is it making leaders across the continent uncomfortable? Let's find out. When President Duma Boko looked into the future, he didn't see foreign investors or borrowed technologies saving Africa. He saw something already alive, already pulsing across the continent. Young Africans, brilliant, impatient, and wildly underestimated. He wasn't poetic, he was surgical. "You want transformation?" he asked, without saying the words. "Then stop ignoring the people who can do it."
And when we do that, we then are able to raise Africa economically. We are able then to meaningfully transform the lives of the people of Africa. And Africa has a very young population, a very dynamic population. It is arguably the youngest continent in terms of age. In Botswana, the median age is 25. Across Africa, the majority of the population are young people bristling with desire, determination, skill, talent. And so, in the ultimate instance, one of the things we're going to have to do is to develop, to harness these skills, to develop these talents, and it requires us to, in certain instances, completely overhaul our education systems, both in terms of content and manner of delivery. So these are the key issues. What do they mean? They mean we must have durable partnerships between government and the private sector. It means that all the innovation in the private sector must be brought to the fore so that the private sector powers all these initiatives that governments must undertake. And so I'm here in part to encourage these partnerships to make sure that the private sector deploys finance to drive the agenda of development. And digitalization, as I've said, is the pivot point for Africa, for each of the countries on the continent.
Africa has the youngest population on the planet. That's not a statistic. That's a revolution waiting for permission to begin. Yet from Lagos to Lusaka, youth are locked out of the decisions that shape their world. They are told to wait, to learn, to follow. Meanwhile, entire systems built by older generations crumble under the weight of old thinking. Boko didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't offer token solutions like youth councils or inspirational hashtags. He was clear. Africa will either empower its young now or be overrun by its own wasted potential later. But what does real empowerment look like? It's not about youth being invited to forums once a year to clap for ministers. It's not about setting up training programs with no jobs at the end. Boko called for a power shift, a transformation where governments don't just manage youth, but co-govern with them. That means giving young engineers control over infrastructure projects, letting young economists design local trade policies, funding young tech founders to solve Africa's deepest problems, from food insecurity to digital banking. And more radically, it means listening to the young, even when they criticize power. But Boko went further. He said this transformation won't happen unless the people and the government stop treating each other like strangers. The gap between the state and the street, between policy and reality, is choking progress. He urged leaders to create systems where ordinary citizens don't just vote once every 5 years, but shape public decisions in real time. Cooperation isn't about singing unity songs. It's about trust, dialogue, and creating feedback loops between those who govern and those who live with the consequences. He wasn't calling for patience. He was calling for partnership. And he made something very clear. If African leaders don't open the doors, young people will tear them down. The continent's youth are tired of being told they're the future. They're ready to be the present. But here's the twist. Youth energy alone won't save the continent. It needs something to anchor it, something to build on. And that's where Boko's next warning comes in. Because if young Africans are going to drive the transformation, they need places to build it. Real, working cities, not broken ones. Hubs of connection, not chaos. Markets, not margins. So the question now isn't whether Africa has the talent. The question is, where will that talent live, work, and grow? That brings us to Boko's second revelation, one that few leaders are willing to confront. Africa must urbanize, or it will collapse under its weight. If Africa's youth are ready to transform the continent, then the continent must give them somewhere to do it. That's where Duma Boko's second warning cuts deepest. Africa's cities are not ready, and time is running out to fix them.
And infrastructure of the requisite quality. We do not want certain parts of the country to experience high latency and others are covered sufficiently and there's low latency. We want the coverage to be of the requisite standard across the whole country. So it's important for the government to ensure that this happens. That's the first thing. We must also ensure, because there's the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which saw us recently in Lusaka, Zambia, launched the trade protocol, where we want to have an Africa that trades and all the countries, all the people, all the producers are therefore able to access this market, Africa-wide market of 1.5 billion people, and they can also aggregate themselves in terms of cooperatives across different localities on the African continent and service for at scale markets that one of them individually able. So it's going to be very critical.
Across the continent, cities are swelling at a rate the world has never seen. By 2050, over 60% of Africa's population will live in urban areas. But what are they moving into? Roads that flood when it rains, power grids that black out by noon, housing that traps families in poverty instead of lifting them out. President Boko didn't mince words. He wasn't calling for more buildings. He was demanding a complete redesign of what it means to be an African city. Urban growth without planning is a recipe for disaster. He wants cities to become living, breathing engines of transformation, where jobs are created, goods are exchanged, and ideas move faster than bureaucracy. In his vision, cities are not just places where people live. They are launchpads for everything Africa hopes to become. But that vision is impossible if every country builds in isolation, which is why Boko's second message was just as bold as the first. Africa must start trading with Africa. Right now, it doesn't. Not in any serious way. Most African countries still depend on goods shipped in from Europe, China, or the US, even when those same products are being made just a few countries away. This isn't just inefficient. It's economic self-sabotage. Imagine a continent where Nigerian-made tech is standard in Senegalese schools. Malian cotton is spun into fabric in Botswana, where Kenyan solar panels power Burkinabe farms. Boko is urging leaders to stop dreaming about global markets and start building regional ones that feed their neighbors first. And cities are the key. They must become trade corridors, not just centers of survival. This means designing roads, warehouses, ports, and rail lines that move goods from Accra to Kigali, not just from Ghana to the West. It means zoning policies that encourage manufacturing, not just malls. It means creating financial incentives to buy African-made before begging the world to invest. But this transformation also demands a new kind of urban politics, one that prioritizes inclusion over profit. Because in too many African cities, urban development means displacing the poor to make room for the rich. Boko's speech challenged this head-on. Cities must be built for citizens, not corporations. To urbanize doesn't mean to westernize. It means designing infrastructure that reflects African realities, dense communities, informal markets, and cultural hubs. Cities must become places where identity is celebrated, not erased, where local resources are used to solve local problems, and perhaps most importantly, where borders are no longer barriers. Because a continent full of disconnected cities is just as dangerous as a continent full of underdeveloped villages. Urbanization and trade are not separate goals. They are two sides of the same survival strategy. But neither of them works in a vacuum. As Boko made clear, if roads stop at borders, if data can't flow freely, if factories can't ship to neighboring countries, then Africa will simply urbanize its poverty, not solve it. So what's missing? What makes urbanization and trade possible? The answer lies in something even more foundational, something invisible yet essential. Connectivity. Not just the kind with wires, but the kind that binds regions, systems, and people together. If roads and cities are the skeleton of Africa's transformation, then technology is its nervous system, the network that allows the whole body to think, move, and grow in sync. That's the next stop in Duma Boko's blueprint. Digitization, technology, and industrialization, not as luxuries, but as lifelines. Let's pause for a second to say big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue.
Digitalization, which I have termed a pivot point for the economy of Botswana, and indeed it's a pivot point for the entire African economy. This pivot point will create efficiency. It will curb and almost or entirely remove wastage in the economy. It will therefore result in resources that would otherwise go to waste being properly channeled now towards the improvement of the lives of the people. So it is absolutely essential for the digitalization to proceed, to be successful, to reach out to all parts of Botswana and all parts of Africa. And we also must look at the evolving technology, and when we look at our data centers, which we are going to have to build, we now must look at hyperscale data centers so that there's energy efficiency, that these centers are robust, and that information is also secure, both information at rest and information in transit. So these are the critical considerations that we must have.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Once Africa builds the cities that can hold its dreams and opens its borders for trade, the question becomes, how fast can it move? In Boko's vision, this speed won't come from imported models or foreign instructions. It will come from a digital revolution rooted in African soil, not copied, but created. Boko isn't just talking about smartphones and internet cafes, he's talking about a total recalibration of the African economy around information, automation, and production. While the continent has been busy exporting cocoa, cobalt, and crude oil, other regions have been building the machines, writing the software, and setting the prices. That imbalance ends, he argued, when Africa begins to control its value chains. That means turning raw materials into high-tech products on African land, using African labor under African intellectual property laws. It means moving from being mined to doing the mining, and the refining, coding, and packaging. And digital tools are the key. Imagine farmers using AI to predict rainfall and manage crops more efficiently. Imagine local governments using blockchain to eliminate corruption in procurement. Imagine health clinics in rural Niger diagnosing patients remotely with telemedicine powered by satellite broadband. Boko's vision isn't theoretical, it's practical, but it requires bold choices. First, Africa must build digital infrastructure with the same urgency it builds roads and ports. Fiber optic lines, cloud data centers, coding schools, and cybersecurity systems are no longer optional. They're strategic defenses against 21st century colonialism. Because in today's world, if you don't control your digital space, someone else will. Secondly, Africa must invest in industrial ecosystems that work in harmony with digital tools, not despite them. That means manufacturing plants that are smart, green, and locally staffed, not rusted assembly lines that pollute and underpay. And perhaps most radical of all, Africa must teach its youth to build machines, not just to repair them. That means rewriting education systems to focus on computational thinking, engineering, and design from the ground up. It means shifting from textbook theory to hands-on innovation, empowering the next generation not just to join the global tech economy, but to shape it. Boko's message wasn't just about opportunity, it was about defense. Without technology, Africa will remain a continent of consumers in a world of creators, a continent that buys data plans but can't build satellites. It wears imported clothes but doesn't own textile robots. That begs for vaccines but doesn't manufacture them. Industrialization, in Boko's plan, doesn't mean chasing smokestacks. It means building clean, smart, scalable industries that anchor Africa's growth in science, not slogans. It's not a return to factories of the 20th century. It's a leap into the labs and digital platforms of the 21st. And that brings us to the final piece of Duma Boko's vision, the one thing that makes everything else possible: connectivity and unity. After youth, cities, trade, and technology, Duma Boko delivered the punchline that holds his entire vision together: a warning. None of this matters if Africa stays disconnected. He argued that disconnection, physical, political, and psychological, is Africa's greatest weakness. Not poverty, not foreign influence, not even corruption. Disunity is the thread unraveling every stitch of progress. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now.
And we will also need interconnectivity. We need these corridors, these trade corridors that we are seeking to construct across Africa to function and function effectively, so that the trade protocol is then given practical expression.
It's a harsh truth few leaders want to say aloud. Africa is building islands, not bridges. Countries draft brilliant policies in isolation, install internet lines that stop at borders, and build highways that lead to nowhere because their neighbors weren't consulted. Every nation wants to lead the race, but no one's laying the track. Boko didn't just mean, let's connect the internet. He meant to connect everything: policies, energy grids, trade regulations, education standards, and even shared goals. Because right now, Africa is moving in different directions with no shared compass. One country innovates while its neighbor crumbles. One blocks imports while the other opens gates. This isn't competition, it's slow self-sabotage. Connectivity, in Boko's vision, is both material and mental. Material in the sense that Africa must physically connect itself through cross-border highways, railways, regional power lines, joint satellite systems, and fiber optic backbones that span the continent, not just capital cities. Think about it. What good is a solar panel factory in Namibia if Congo can't access it due to crumbling roads? What use is an AI lab in Rwanda if its servers can't communicate with Ghana's data centers because of incompatible systems or unstable broadband? That kind of disconnection isn't just inefficient, it's fatal to progress. But there's a deeper layer, and this is where Boko took the conversation into bold territory. He called for psychological unity. Africa, he said, cannot afford to be a continent where countries treat each other like strangers. There must be a shared belief that progress in one corner of Africa is progress for all, not a competition, but a coalition. Because without that mindset, every advance will remain fragile, susceptible to jealousy, sabotage, or silence. Boko even hinted at something larger: the need for a shared African mission, something that goes beyond economic blocks or summit declarations, something that binds Ethiopia's highlands to Senegal's ports, a guiding purpose, not written by consultants, but forged by mutual struggle and shared survival. And what would that mission look like? He didn't prescribe a doctrine. but his speech pointed to one idea: self-determination through unity. Not in the Pan-African slogans of the 1960s, but in the practical daily choices of governments that choose to trust each other. That means aligning visa policies, opening skies for intra-African air travel, synchronizing tech platforms, and recognizing that African success will only scale if it's networked. Because a digital future built on weak connections will glitch. An urban plan without regional links will stall. An empowered youth locked behind national barriers will flee. So, Boko left his audience with a final challenge, not a technical one, but a moral one. Can Africa finally stop being a map of divided interests and start becoming a web of shared destiny? Let us know in the comments section. Is his way of fixing Africa practical? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.